Hi, it is I, RP. This is a chinchilla. A chinchilla is a crepuscular animal that is usually pretty chill and calm for the most part until it isn't and won't calm down. And this is also a chinchilla, which is usually chill until it won't calm down. So I had the benefit of taking the Benda Chinchilla 125 out for pretty much a whole week to test it out, and I have been very impressed by how it performed as a 125cc motorcycle. Let's begin as usual with our numbers talk, alright? The Chinchilla 125 comes with a 125cc liquid-cooled V-twin engine that peaks at about 14 horsepower at 8,500 RPM and 14.5 Newton meters of torque at 6,500 RPM. Now, for all of you fellow nerds out there that care, the Chinchilla is also wrongly labeled as having 4 valves per cylinder on Keyway's official website, and a lot of the brochures handed out, it actually has 3 valves per cylinder. And you can learn that by literally opening the section under a valve clearance on the shop manual to see the diagram itself. So if you are afraid of getting the Chinchilla because of the expenses related to valve clearance, just know that you actually only need to clear 2 less valves than you expected. The Chinchilla 125's engine is definitely going to feel pretty anemic when you first get on it. Besides the fact it is the smallest possible legal displacement for a motorcycle in a lot of places, it is also a very square engine and slightly low compression. The Chinchilla shines the best by keeping the throttle wide open 24/7 and redlining it constantly at 11,000 RPM or more. So while it doesn't need a very experienced rider to have fun with it, it certainly needs someone who is very confident and engaged with shifting up and down constantly to prevent it from going below 9,000 RPM. The first 2 gears help with the pretty weak low end by being excessively short, while the final 6th gear on a flat with no headwind will let you top out at 100 kilometers per hour or so on the speedo. However, if you have a pillion with you, it still struggles on slopes even with the first gear, unless, as mentioned, you are confident enough to pin the throttle. Despite actually weighing in and sized nearly as much as an equivalent 300 to 400cc Japanese cruiser, the Chinchilla 125 is also very nimble. It falls into a lean incredibly easy and stays stable through a corner, and then flicks over to the other side with little effort. A lot of it is attributed to the stiff suspension, short straight bars, and a relatively short wheelbase. You get 16-inch wheels up front and 15-inch wheels at the back, fitted with Timsun TS659 tires stock. They do track very well and lend to the bike's agility with its steep profile. I do notice they don't get as hot and sticky as a good set of Michelins or Pirellis even after a long day of riding, though I've not had trouble with hard braking on wet surfaces. I got about 32 kilometers per liter of fuel economy out of the Chinchilla by riding it constantly at redline, with 80% of the distance covered being on highways while testing. While certainly nowhere near the insane 50 kilometers per liter levels of Japanese 125cc underbones, for perspective, you are not buying a 125cc underbone. With a fuel tank with 15 liters of capacity, you can expect a pretty decent maximum touring range of about 480 kilometers if you ride it down to the last drop. The features section for the Chinchilla is going to be uncharacteristically sparse by a Chinese manufacturer's standards. You get a 2.5-inch LCD display that provides very basic info: a speedo, a tacho, trip and odometers, gear indicator, clock, and a fuel gauge. That's it. I still think LCDs are great, especially on bikes built to a budget, as even the cheapest LCD screen is clear and readable under bright sunlight, like the one on the Chinchilla.
However, the other indicator lights on the dash itself for the high beams and turn signals are practically invisible during daytime. They also provide you with a single USB-A socket up front and on the left near the radiator, which is nice to have. And lastly, you'll notice the Chinchilla 125 is driven with a belt instead of a chain, so no annoying chain maintenance schedules or dirty crud flinging up your pants. The electricals and oil filter do seem to be tucked away quite deep into the chassis, requiring disassembly of quite a number of things to reach if you don't have particularly small hands to boot. But that's about it. There is no ABS, no TCS, nada. This is as basic a motorcycle as you can get if you value having a motorcycle in its simplest and purest form. I come in at a 177 centimeters tall with an 85 centimeter inseam, and I straight up look like an orangutan on a circus bicycle. The Chinchilla 125 is physically very compact for a cruiser. That said, it's not particularly uncomfortable for my size. It has forward foot controls that now became mid controls for me. Huzzah! It's also got short straight bars that usually require you to lean forward on bigger machines, but because the whole bike is short, I can sit up straight. Huzzah! It's also one of those bikes where it's easier to move it with the engine off by waddling while seated than pushing it by hand. Now, while the demo bike had a very comfortable aftermarket seat, I still did take a gander at the one on the showroom floor, and I can say it's not very soft or plush. It's shaped to cradle the rider's bum, but I don't expect it to work very well on a cannonball run. There isn't much space for a pillion either on the stock seat. So if anything has to go first as a mod item, it's probably the seat. The footrests and grips are also adequately chunky with a good amount of surface area on it. That said, if you ride it like I expect you to ride it, being constantly on the red line, you'll still get numb hands and feet if you ride it long enough with how much it vibrates throughout the entire machine. The clutch and front brake lever pulls are also very light for what it takes to do their job. The rear brake pedal requires a bit more force to engage, but you'll get used to it. Shifting through the gears is buttery smooth, though they do require your toes to travel quite a fair bit. The stock bar end mirrors are also pretty small, and you don't really see much out of it really. On top of that, their mounting stalks are so short that if you wear gloves, your pinky is just constantly rubbing on the edge of the mirror and potentially pushing it out of alignment. If it were me, I'd probably just forgo usable mirrors entirely and use one of those that attach directly to the end of the bars and add more weights to the bar ends to help with the vibrations instead. The Chinchilla 125 is, by my standards, decent looking and pretty much blends into the faceless crowd compared to other standout offerings from Benda like the Napoleon or the Dark Flag. Visually, there is really not much to talk about. It doesn't try to lean into a particular style of cruiser one way or the other, or look like it is a statement piece about its rider. It is neither hyper-futuristic nor retro or even neo-retro. It's visually distinct enough that it doesn't nostalgia bait a decrepit old man like myself into thinking, wow, it looks like this thing my dad used to have, you know. It's literally just a round headlight and teardrop tank in a cruiser layout with a neat engine and pipe layout and some sick looking bar end mirrors. The fit and finish also really reflects the price point it was made at. Most parts you tap and expect a satisfying metallic ting ting turns out to feel lightweight to the touch. The switches themselves feel pretty solid, but the housing on the hand controls don't feel hefty. You get very basic weld, and even the handlebar lock on the ignition barrel requires very precise wiggling to engage it. What it does well for 125 though is to be loud. The Chinchilla 125 is obnoxiously loud for its size. If you do not wear earplugs, the screaming coming out of the tornado of doom between your legs is louder than the wind noise smashing into your face at highway speeds.
I love it, I love it.
To be perfectly honest, if money and space were no issue, I would absolutely want to add the Chinchilla 125 to my stable of bikes. Like I said, even though it falls under the category eligible for 2B license holders or A1 license holders or any other entry-level license holders are legally allowed to buy, it is definitely not for those who do not have confidence pinning the throttle and staying away from the brakes. You don't buy this to cruise around lost in your thoughts. You buy it to be engaged with the ride as much as possible, shifting up and down the gears to keep the engine screaming as much as possible. Coming in at a very cheap 7,600 Singaporean dollars for the machine price, this thing is absolutely in second or third bike toy territory for the middle class person not afraid to thrash it and repair it. But to the young Gen Z who can't afford a more expensive motorcycle as their primary bike but are ready to move on from their Wave or NMAX, it is a good choice too. I think even those into the custom scene can find value in the Chinchilla 125. It's cheap, it doesn't have many elaborate parts or electronics, and it's a platform you can easily go wild on without sparing a second thought about resale value because it probably has none to lose.
So that's all from me about the Benda Chinchilla 125. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are on this particular 125cc motorcycle from Benda. I myself have been very impressed by what it is for the price point, and as well as what it actually gives to somebody who has experienced so many motorcycles in the past 14-15 years of riding, and it's sparked so much nostalgia in me, you know, that feeling of a new sensation that I have not felt in a very long while. So if you like this video, do remember to give me a like, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, and I'll see you next time. Peace out. Bye-bye. So before I go, I just wanted to do a small little segment because I put out a membership, channel membership system on my Reize Productions channel, and I just got my first and only channel member, a new Skull Rider called Joe Library. So Joe Library, this is going to be your name plastered across the entire screen, and this is going to be the Joe Library shoutout section for the next few years or months, because I'm a very small channel and I don't think I'm going to get more than you. But I am so happy that somebody, at least somebody, thought that the work I put in is worth supporting, worth you know, putting $1 into, and I thank you so much for it. Not sure if you're a very shy guy though, or girl. I don't discriminate, but just get used to it being Joe Library's shoutout section. Ciao, see you, bye bye.